there, and this is the Midweek Zap, and I am so excited to have Oleg Moskalensky here today. He's my guru on everything Google Apps and other related things. It's just amazing. So if you're ready to learn how to master those little tricks that'll save you tons of time and make your business more efficient, you are at the right place. Oleg, welcome.
Hi, Zara. Thank you. An honor to be here. My son actually preceded me to be on the show with you, so it's great to be here.
He did. He's fantastic.
I'm biased, but I can't disagree.
Yeah, I know. That was a very, very fun show. He thinks a lot.
Yep.
Yeah. So, Oleg, I call it rhino work, the work that you do behind the scenes that your clients never see. But it takes time and effort and all of those things. And I think everyone in business struggles with, how can I get more efficient at using the tools that I have? I have them, but I'm not sure what to do. So I know that Productive Computer Systems hosts a series of shows on effectively using Google Apps, and everyone that I've been to, I've implemented, and it's just like, wow, hours of time in some cases, from struggling with frustration to just making it happen. So what do you have for us today?
Well, I guess today we're just kind of talking about it in general, so I'll bring some generalities to the table instead of
Okay, dope.
specific stuff. Basically, the way I look at it is, I've been doing this IT stuff for over 3 decades. And all that in that time, my initial fascination with computers started, coming from a country where you couldn't even spell the word computer. It was all new to me when I went to high school here and learning English and everything. And I was fascinated with the fact that you can do some of these things that computers allowed you to do, and some of the automated things and some of the things that computer can do so much faster, like even writing a little program to just use it as a calculator, as a simple calculator. Initially, it's like, wow, I don't have to know the answer in my head what 656 times 3,482 is. All I have to do is just punch in the numbers, and there's my answer. And I realize it's a very simplistic approach, but at the same time, at the time when I was much, much younger than today, it was very fascinating to me that you can do this very painlessly and at the same time with such a savings of time and effort. And so as I got more into computers and I got more into programming and learning systems design, databases, all that stuff, all of it came through the decades, but my initial desire, if you will, to get things done easier and better was always there. In other words, partially I think stems from the time when I was in school, even smaller, back in Russia, Ukraine actually, to be more accurate. It was always, I hated homework. I just hated it. I did well in school, but I always hated homework. And I think the reason where this desire of mine came all the way through the years and right now was, how can I get something done quicker than normally it would? So I tried to find whatever corners to cut, whatever I could do in terms of school. I tried to remember as much as I could and everything else. And then as I got older, when I saw computers, it was like a panacea and a godsend. Here I have something I can use to create my shortcuts again. And all I have to do is learn how to do it.
I know. When I was in high school, I used to do, all the slide rule calculations, and then I'd be up till 2 a.m, doing and working them out longhand just to make sure I'd used the slide rule correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward to the 80s, and all of a sudden there were spreadsheet programs.
VisiCalc. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and there was VisiCalc, and it was like a miracle because all you had to do was create the formulas and all the numbers operations just happened miraculously. And I was like, oh my gosh, this saves so much time, you know. So, you know, and they're as good as the formulas you put in, but they're just, oh, it was like an eye opener to me. But I do want to say something else, and I think it's still true today, that all of these things are tools, and we need to think of them as tools, because I remember in 1985, I was working at a private um, fund that gave grants, and you know, the computer lived in another room in its own little environment, and da da. And we all used it, and there was a deadline date for submissions for grant proposals, and and so everybody was working on their reviews of the submissions to make the recommendations, and the hard disk crashed, and people lost hours worth of work, and so that was my first experience, 1985, of, you know, having everything just go disappear. And William Rock is a frequent visitor here, and he stresses backup. And I'll tell you, that was my supreme lesson in backing up everything, because you never
Absolutely.
know when those tools are just going to give out.
Right.
So,
Right, and then no question about that. I had one gentleman, and when I was doing my corporate stint, and he spent 7 hours on a spreadsheet, and then the disk went bad, and this was at the time of floppies. We're talking before hard disks.
right.
So that definitely taught him a lesson to save things more frequently in multiple places. But going back to the conversation about the efficiencies, so moving over the years, you know. I saw that computers did more and more and allowed us to do more and more. And like you said, it's nothing more than a tool, no question about that. But at the same time, it's definitely, I saw as a user, much more than a programmer or system designer, as a regular user, how I can improve some things. Because if you look at it from a standpoint of everybody's lives, the last thing you want to do is you want to cut corners and how much time you spend in, for example, with your children. I mean, you want
Mhm.
as much time as you can possibly spend with them. If you need to go see a movie and the movie is 2.5 hours, you know, I don't know what the new Star Wars is going to be, probably at least 2 hours. You don't have, nobody has any interest in cutting that short. If anything, it's like, don't let it stop. You know, when is episode 8 coming out? So there's certain things in our lives that need to be done with the time frame it takes to do, and you cannot diminish it. For example, one perfect example is I'm a huge fan of audiobooks. I listen to audiobooks constantly, and the Audible, which is where I usually get most of my books. Now I'm also getting them in the local library. By the way, if anybody's interested in getting a bunch of free audiobooks, Get Overdrive is the name of the app that you can get for free, and you can hook up with a bunch of different libraries and get all kinds of ebooks and audiobooks at no cost. Phenomenal, phenomenal tool.
Yeah.
Overdrive is the name of the app. So I'm getting those, and I'm getting Audible books and buying. And so I listen to the stuff all the time. They have audiobooks that are both abridged and unabridged. And I never even touched a bridge version because I really want to get the entire whole book as the author meant it, as he wrote it, the whole deal. So we have this situation with 24 hours a day. Nothing we can do to expand that, okay? At the same time, we have the situation with some of these things in our lives that we do, such as our vacations and things like that. We don't want them to be any shorter than they are. They're already too short. So to me, the important thing, where I really come and encourage businesses to look into it, is there is also, a lot of businesses do, they cut corners in things like customer service, which is it's like slashing your own throat, basically. It's the
Right.
last thing you want to do if you're in business, and that's where you cut corners. If anything, you should be expanding that and making that working as well as possible. So the question becomes, okay, we only have 24 hours. What can we do because we got too many things to do? And that's where I go back to the concept of, what I call, my spec initiative, which is strictly productive and efficient computing. And that is for businesses. There's a lot of things that we do in business and in personal life as well that enhances the experience and shortens it by using computers, by using tools. It's no different than getting in the car to drive for 15 minutes to get something from a store versus walking for an hour and a half to the same store and walking back. We certainly take the car, take the 15-minute trip versus walking for an hour and a half or 2 hours. Why? Because it's faster, it's more efficient. We can spend that extra hour that's left to do something more productive, more meaningful, and more important to us. So that's why everybody drives cars. That's the reason. In using business, when you bring it down to the business level, for businesses, there's a tremendous amount of software and gadgets and hardware, things like that, available to make things that you have to do in business easier. Keeping track of your financials, keeping track of your people, communicating with your people, reporting on different things. All these different things can be done much, much, much better, much more efficiently with the use of computers and use of software. Even a simple thing like in the old days, you used to have assistants who would run around and bring you coffee and make your appointments, tell you what to do. There's still a lot of executives that have that. Me, being a small business owner, I cannot afford to have an assistant that's running around doing my stuff, okay? So what I can do, though, is I can use some of the existing applications and devices like my phone, my tablet, and so on to basically substitute that assistant with something that A, is cheap, basically it's free most of the time, B, is even more efficient in terms of time it takes to do something, in terms of calendar appointments, things like that. It'll remind me, no matter where I'm at, assistant has to come to my office, but if I happen to be in somebody else's office, one of my clients, my assistant can come to me. They can try calling me and distracting me. All of this, everybody kind of understands the concept. That's why so many people use it. People say, if you just put your phone down for just a few minutes and enjoy life. That's a wonderful statement, but there is a reason why people use their phones. It's not because they don't want to enjoy their life. They use it because it's entertaining, because it saves them time, and because it's fun. Those are the reasons people use their phones, not because they're little devices that you want to pick up, or like a little mouse here. I pick it up and I use it because it looks cute, or because it's called a mouse. No, I use it because I cannot be as efficient on my screen by using a keyboard in many ways, like when I'm drawing something, for example, as I can with my mouse. So I use the mouse. It's the same kind of concept. Where I think the problem occurs with most people, so everybody I think understands, most people listening to this would agree with what I'm saying. It's pretty much common sense stuff and facts. I'm not inventing anything here. The problem comes in with where people fall short on this thing is, at least in my experience in terms of business, is A, they're not open-minded enough. In other words, they're close to any kind of change or any meaningful change, and so the concept of we've always done it this way runs their lives. And that's what makes it very difficult for them to embrace and to get some of these savings. One of the things that I'm doing with the Speczone, which is my service for kind of adding an IT department to small businesses, is I'm usually telling people there's three things we need to concentrate on first. And that is things that are complicated, things that are repetitive, and things that are difficult. Okay, so complicated, I'm sorry, not difficult. What was the third one? Complicated, which is same as difficult. Repetitive, time-consuming. Time-consuming is the third one. Okay, so those are the three things. Repetitive, complicated, time-consuming. The order of them is irrelevant. What's relevant is that if you look at tasks that match all three of these criteria, and if you can automate those tasks, you'll be saving yourself a tremendous amount of time, energy, and effort, and becoming more quote-unquote efficient. Okay? But for most people in business, from what I'm seeing, they very much are tied to doing what they're doing, and so because it worked for them before, they do not want to make the tiny little gesture of learning something a little bit new or moving in something else, because to them it's extra work and they're already so busy and they don't have time and they don't want to do it and they're too old and they're too whatever. There's a zillion different reasons why they come up, why they can't do it. But the bottom line is that they don't do it. So on one hand, they want to be more efficient. They want to spend less time. They want to make more money. But at the same time, they're hampering themselves by putting themselves behind this wall, saying we've always done it this way. Go away with your little ideas, because if I get Oleg number 2 coming in tomorrow, he's going to have different ideas, which is true. Everybody obviously has their own deal. And so this is, in my view, is the biggest obstacle to progress in most small businesses, especially small businesses, is because A, they don't know what to do. And then you take it to the next step. Let's say they are open-minded enough and they do buy technology and they start using it. If they don't know what they're doing and don't know exactly what to use, they wind up using the wrong technology, or they wind up using it incorrectly. One of the famous examples was somebody says, can I go ahead and use, let's use VisiCalc as an example. Can I use a spreadsheet to create a document, like a word processing document? And the answer, of course, is of course you can. The question is, why would you want to? It's like saying I'm going to use some sort of well, let's say I have a chair that has wheels, casters on it. I'm going to use that to go to that same store to buy groceries versus taking a car, just because it has wheels on it. It has wheels, it moves, so why not, right? And that's a similar kind of deal. I mean, I'm trying to use kind of these, extreme examples to make my point. But the point is that it's exactly what it is you need to use the right tools, and you need to use them correctly to get the maximum benefit. And the benefits are there. We live in the world of zillion apps that can do some absolutely wonderful things. We live in the world of computers being faster than ever before. We live in the world where things can be automated immensely, not only with programming. You look at tools like IFTTT, and well, now they have two, that one and the Do tool, Do app. We have things like Tasker on mobile devices. There's a bunch of other ones similar to that. We have all kinds of things that even if you're not a programmer, you can still create a lot of automation and do a lot of things that you can do much more efficiently than before. We have things like Hangouts, which can be used to quickly communicate with a client and resolve things like you and I are talking right now, versus writing somebody a letter by hand and mailing it and things like that. So it's a totally different world on one hand, but on the other hand, I still have friends and clients who, well, let's not use that example. I'll give you another example. I was just talking to one of my clients, which is a resort company, thinking of changing their TVs. So they're thinking of buying smart TVs, and the vendor recommended to them to buy TVs, buy Roku boxes, and replace all this stuff, and everybody will be happy. So the CEO talked to me because I'm in charge of their IT, but I also, he knows I know a lot about entertainment, gadgetry, and things like that, and he says we're thinking about smart TVs and we're thinking about these Roku boxes. Okay, and so there's supposed to be this meeting. So he says, can you come to this meeting, which is of course using Uber Conference. We're not the resort is in Idaho and I'm here in Washington State. So the wonder of technology today. So this vendor comes in, and this guy has been in business for 20-some years, and he says this is a great solution, this is very reliable, on and on and on. And so I listened to the whole thing and said, well, you might want to consider getting non-smart TVs and getting Chromecasts. No. I've been installing these Roku boxes for at least a decade. I've never had any problems with them, and on and on. And so the guy is, speaking of efficiency and effectiveness, the guy is just going on and on about, knocking that this is a great solution. If you go with something else, you don't know if it's going to be reliable enough, it'll work well. How long has Chromecast been out? I said, well, I've used it for over a year now, but that's not really a point here. It's not about reliability not being in place. I said I wouldn't recommend anything that I don't use myself. Well, the guy just got completely huffy and puffy on the phone, and he said in the end that if you can try whatever you want, because my solution to them was very simple. Set up 2 environments, his and mine, look at the costs, look at how it works, and then pick whatever you want. So I'm not pushing my solution. I have no, basically, no stakes in the whole deal at all. I'm even trying to recommend something useful. And the guy is just constantly like this. So at the end, to make a long story short, at the end of the conversation, number one, he said that if we want to try this other approach, then he's out of the loop. He'll step out, find some other vendor to support the whole TV thing and everything. So that was one statement. And the second deal was I decided to, stop being abused basically verbally, and said, let me ask you this. I said, have you ever used Chromecast? The guy kind of, silence fills the room over the phone line. And then he finally goes, no, I haven't, but I said, then we don't have anything else to discuss here. If you haven't used it, I see no reason why you're knocking it without having any idea what it is, how it works, and everything like that. So you end up with the example I'm bringing here is that you have people who have been in business for a long time, and they're absolutely, totally convinced that, and this shows how close-minded some people are. Because if you look at it from a logical standpoint, okay, the solution with Roku has many holes in it. Number one, it's an extra box, which means it's an extra remote and so on and so forth. Number two, so you're making situation currently there more complicated by adding more boxes, number one. Number two, if you buy smart TVs, they already have the apps. You don't really need to have Roku. So why are you buying Rokus on top of that? You're spending extra money that you don't have to spend. Okay? Number three, which is the biggest reason to go with Chromecast instead of going with this solution, is most people have their own accounts on Netflix, on Amazon, and so what they wind up doing is using their mobile devices with their own logins. They have their own watch list. It's all customized to them. So they're empowered to use their own devices, and they're using these devices to control the content that they like, that they put together in these watch lists, playlists, everything else, YouTube, everything. They have all the logins and everything already on their devices. The beauty of Chromecast is you're controlling it with your own device, and you can play it on big screen TV, but you don't need to worry with all this minutiae about logging on, logging off, and so on and so on. If you go with the Roku approach, that's exactly what you need to do. And if you're considering the environment being hotel, people come for a week, they leave, and another group of people comes. So people will be constantly needing to log into their account, or they can't even watch the Netflix. And so if you consider just this one little fact, if how much better a service you're going to bring and how much more effective it's going to be to use my solution, not to mention the fact that Roku costs, the one that we're talking about, $100 plus cables from everything, where my solution is nothing but $35. Plus, if you're buying smart TV, you're spending at least $50 more for smart TV versus getting a dumb TV, or regular TV, I should say, with a Chromecast. So it's cheaper to go with my approach. It's far better for people in terms of use, far more effective in terms of being more reliable, less reliable. There's nothing unreliable about Chromecast. I mean, and if it breaks down and you need to change it, you're replacing a $35 puck. I mean, it's nothing. But the example here is the people's tendency to just close their eyes and their ears, blabber with their mouth, without giving any consideration to alternate points of view, to say and to think maybe this is a more effective and efficient way to do things. And that is true of just about anything you can think of. That these kind of examples.
It is. I know with my writing clients, it's the same thing. And most of them are web developers, and they want content for their clients. But it's the same thing, it's like, how many keywords and da-da-da. And there's this whole, conversation before anything happens about, how searches change and what you really want to be happening on that website. But it's always keywords. I always do this. So I have the same thing. But I just wanted to share, you're getting some comments here. Wewek says, we've done it this way for X years is the number one reason why one should change, in my view. I see you agree, Oleg.
100%.
Yeah. And then Luc Jalois says, if you don't control your computer will control you.
I don't know about that.
And then Kristen says, Kristen Drysdale says, the problem with most people is that they don't properly name their devices. How can they work for us with so little regard? Kristen, you know what? I have to agree. I give people a lot of leeway, and when my devices short out or do whatever they're doing that is frustrating, I take it totally personally. So I completely agree with that. And then Mark Barras says, productive computer systems. Good point. The phone is a mobile conduit for integrating life and business on the go. And I have to agree. It's integration.
Yeah, no, and we're talking hypothetically here. I mean, specifically, but
Right.
also hypothetically, not with any details. So another, kind of, I'm just bringing these examples to show people some of the fallacies, and hopefully people who listen who are in small business will take some heart to, number one, open their mind a little bit. That's the first thing. Number two is try to find people you can deal with that know what they're doing to help you, because obviously having people who can write as well as Zara Altair is not something that most business people can do. So if you need something written, you go to Zara, you hire her to do the job. Do not micromanage Zara with every use this keyword, use that keyword. She knows what keywords to use. Let her do her job. Then you can concentrate on doing your job. So usually that's the best approach in my view, to hire the right people, by first vetting them and, getting referrals, all of that, but then let them do their job. As you concentrate on doing what you're doing, and let people you get to help you in whatever areas to do what they're doing. Because and it's important to find the right people to do it, because like I said, it's the right tools used correctly. And I'll give another example with another client that I just recently acquired that shows this in spades. This one guy comes into me and says, you were referred to me by somebody, gives him the name, and he goes, I'd like to get a few things figured out at home. I have this CRM system, and I set up, I want to move the files from that to Rackspace, and I want to be able to access the stuff on the go. That's why I'm thinking that Rackspace would be a good solution. And then also I need some other stuff. Can you come over? Can you help me out? And just the guy talks a mile a minute. Okay. And so one of the things when I came over, he goes, I got this hosted Exchange account using Outlook, and the thing sometimes doesn't work very well and slow and this and that. I said, well, if you're talking about using it, using email on the web, I said you can easily do with, switch to Gmail. That way you don't have to pay for any hosted Exchange. No, 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 no. I hate Gmail. No, I hate Gmail. Okay, you hate Gmail. You hate Gmail. Next case. I did make a point to the guy without making sure that nobody gets offended here, saying that I use the thing religiously myself, have done it for years, and I definitely would recommend it. Let's put it this way. It's certainly up to you whether you want to or not, but I certainly recommend it. So then we go into the minutia with the Rackspace and moving files, and I get the credentials to log in, find out where his files are. He's got this server running at home, and he's got a bunch of files on there, maybe like, I don't know, several hundred. I think he's got less than a gigabyte. I think maybe a little over a gigabyte. Not that much at all in terms of storage. And it's all running over this network. He's got some network problems. Long story short is, when I actually looked and saw what he's doing on Rackspace, simply following his request, I said, what are you trying to accomplish actually? Well, I'm just trying to be able, if I want to travel and stuff, I want to be able to access the CRM thing on the fly. And they said Rackspace supports this. I said, whoa, back up for a second. Your files are currently located on a server at home, right? Right. They're not eating up that much room. Why do you need to go to Rackspace? He says, well, I don't need to, but when I travel, I said, hold on, you're traveling with a laptop? He says, yes. I said, but what about putting the files? Well, at home, I want the files to be accessible, at home on the desktop, but when I travel, it will be on the laptop. I said, fine. I said, you don't need Rackspace or anything, because we wound up calling Rackspace because they had some issues with the thing. And anyway, it turned out into a headache that didn't need to be there. I said, why don't you just go spend $50, get a 1 terabyte or so external drive, hook it up to your desktop. We'll put all the files on there, so you don't have to worry about the server stuff at home, because he wanted to eliminate this dedicated server. And then when you travel, you simply take this tiny little drive, you hook it into your laptop, all your files are there, the app is there, and you're using it locally in both cases, but you're on the go, and that way you don't have to have a Rackspace account to pay X amount of dollars per month and still accomplish what you want to accomplish. We can do that? Yeah, we can do that. So I go ahead, do it. The guy calls me, Oleg, this is so great. This is so much faster. Why didn't you tell me in the beginning, why did we even have to call Rackspace? I said, you're the one who told me to call Rackspace, so I did. But the bottom line being is that people have a certain need, and they do not understand fully or grasp how they can solve that particular problem that they're having, so they wind up with these convoluted approaches, going like this to set up a separate host somewhere in the cloud. I'm a huge proponent of the cloud. I love the cloud. I definitely recommend the cloud. I use the cloud. But at the same time, all of this needs to be done with a certain sense of understanding and saneness and knowledge of what to do, what tools to use, and how to use them appropriately. That's what gets efficiency going. That's what makes things more productive, more efficient, and at the same time, reliability obviously need to be in place as well. So that's taken care of as well. To follow up with the call, the guy calls me after spending a couple of hours with him, showing him what I do and what I know and everything else. So when can we get together again so you can show me how to set up Gmail? I'm like, Gmail. He says, well, after you showed me how you're using it, he says, maybe I want to switch after all. So it's, in many ways, like I said, the thing that I love about this guy is he has enough of an open mind to make the change. So we went from one day saying, I hate Gmail, which is basically nothing but two words that are completely meaningless because he's got nothing to back it up with. And a lot of people are like that. To get then going 2 weeks later, calling me and saying he wants to get together to get Gmail set up and so I can show him how to use it and everything else. So that right there is the key thing. If I could, put any specific message out there to people, I would say try to have an open mind, find the right people to help you if you need help, unless you want to take the time and energy to learn this yourself, get the right tools for the job, and then use them correctly. That's basically the entire magic formula in my view.
Oh, an open mind is so important because sometimes it makes so much sense to change a tool, say going from Outlook to Gmail. And if you're resistant, first you're spending all this emotional energy on being resistant, and second is you're slowing down the effectiveness of your business. Boy, I'm telling you, if anyone here in the audience or later on our YouTube audience has questions about becoming more efficient with, say, something like Gmail, Oleg is the go-to person. He's just, I don't know how many times Oleg has said, you just do this on his productive computer systems show. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so simple. Why didn't I think of that? And because every time you can implement a step that saves time, that means you have more time for your business. Because most people are not into IT, they're not into programming, they're just doing whatever it is they do, and I'm one of them. I am not a tech person. And so, the more that you can arrange your systems so that they're doing the work for you, that you don't have to, that streamlines everything that you do. So it's easy to check your email, and it's easy to see when your clients are contacting you on email in the giant stream of stuff that comes into your email. All those things make a difference. So I highly recommend Oleg. And as you can tell from his talk today, he's extraordinarily logical. So it's all going to make sense. Oleg, we have just a couple of minutes left here on our time. Why don't you tell people a little bit more about Speczone, because it's the answer for a lot of small businesses about the bridging the gap between hiring IT and a whole crew of people and trying to do it yourself unsuccessfully.
Yeah, basically, Speczone was born out of my experience of dealing with a bunch of different businesses and my own thoughts and everything. The concept was very simple. Most businesses, if you look at any business of any even small size of 50 people or 30 people even, things like that, they tend to always have their own IT departments. The reason is very simple. Technology can definitely significantly improve your efficiency in business, which translates into improved bottom line, which translates into the ability to do more with the amount of time that you have. And so that's why everybody has IT departments. when I say everybody, everybody who can afford to have them. The problem with most small businesses is they cannot afford to have even a single person on staff full time based on salaries and everything else that's being paid to people in IT. So what they wind up doing is they wind up having a challenge, because on one hand they know they need technology, because if you don't use technology you will not be able to compete today. It's a simple fact. I'm not saying it because I'm an IT guy, I'm just saying it because it's a fact of life. You will be completely, totally left in the dust if you don't use technology for your business. There's just not enough time to be able to do things manually and using the old ways compared to your competition doing it with technology. So you have to use technology, okay? So you wind up hiring somebody to come in and solve a particular problem right now because that's all you can afford to pay. So you pay them a few $1,000s, they solve that one problem for you, and then they leave because you're not paying them anymore. So when they leave, a certain amount of time passes, and then you have either a problem with what they've done or you have some other challenge that you need to resolve, which means you need to have them come back. Problem is they're not available anymore. So if they're not available anymore, you hire somebody else. Somebody else, they say, give a challenge to a programmer, to 10 programmers, they'll give you 10 different solutions. That's true. There's more than one way to skin a cat. So you have somebody else coming in. That somebody else may not have the same level of education, same level of knowledge, same level of experience. Whatever it's a different person. So they may have a completely different take on what was done before. So their first solution, including being biased to get more money, is this is completely wrong. But whatever this guy did for you, I don't know who you hired, never hire him again. You need to do it this way. You being a business person who is not IT expert, that you don't know. If the guy sounds genuine enough and the guy sounds confident enough, everything else, maybe you did make a mistake. You don't know. Now you're having this problem, so maybe the guy's right. Okay, can you fix this? Can you do it right? So he fixes it. Then he leaves, and so it winds up being this constant snowball of you're spending money, you're spending time, things break down, things do not work together between different systems. It's a constant struggle, and people just go, they tear their hair out going, I've had it with these computers, I've had it with this stupid internet, this social media, whatever it is, waste of time, just leave me alone. And so it's nothing but frustration and things are not getting done. So my idea was to provide a service whereby you would have an IT department equivalent, which is done online, but it's like having an IT department where you have somebody you can come back to whenever you feel that you have a need. At the same time, on an ongoing basis, there is a small amount of investment of time that you spend to continuously work on what you're currently doing, how you're doing it, making it more efficient, automating things, basically eliminating the bottlenecks and trying to get to run the business as effectively and efficiently as possible by having your own IT department, just like big companies do, because that's what they do. They go to their IT guy and saying, we're doing this new marketing campaign, we need to track it. Do it. Make it happen. We're doing this, we have a contract department. They're doing all these contracts. We need to get all these reports, blah, blah, blah. All of this is done by going to IT department. So I decided to come up with a similar situation for small business where on a weekly basis people spend about an hour of time with me at 3 different sessions at their convenience. So that's pretty rigid. In addition to that, they can also chime in on chat, just like we do anytime. If they have a quick question, I immediately will answer it. The idea being, it's like they are able to go and have their own IT department that knows their needs, that works on behalf of them to resolve their problems, to help them with their challenges, to help them run business better, more efficiently, more automated, like I said, to have their own IT department. So that's what Speczone does. The cost for something like that is, they have 2 plans. One is $200 a month, one is $500 a month. And essentially the idea being that people can easily, most small businesses can easily afford. If you don't have $200 a month to spend, you're really running a hobby, you're not really running a business. So I made it so it's painfully inexpensive and at the same time potent, because you have support all the time and because on a continuous basis you're able to discuss things and move things along and get things done. And so it's not one of these one project and then somebody's gone. It's like a part of your company essentially. And the bad news about the Speczone is there's only so many people I can handle. So once it fills up, which it hasn't filled up so far, but once it does, I won't be taking any more people because I don't. It's the concept I came up with is not easily scalable. In other words, I know what I can do. I have a certain amount of experience, certain amount of knowledge, all of that. But if I hire somebody else to offload it to, I cannot count on somebody 100% the way I can count on myself. So because of that, there's a limited number of seats. But the beauty, I mean, the good news is there's still some seats open. And so if anybody's interested in having that kind of service, that's what Speczone is.
I just, when you first told me that, you were starting this new project, I just thought it was so brilliant because it does everything that you said. But in addition, there's an ongoing line of communication. So the business owner isn't repeating what their needs are. And the more you as the IT person work with them, the more you understand their systems and the better able you are to help them make what they have in place more efficient and to make suggestions about things they could add. And I just wanted, I just love this. Nina Tankova came and she said, the best tool ever, an open mind when not confused with emotions.
Yeah, I totally agree with Nina. I don't know about the emotions part, but it's one of these situations where, all of this can happen, but you do need to have an open mind because what's happening is if you come in, let's say you even become a member of Speczone, and we get together and we talk about it, and I say, I recommend you do this and that. No, no, no. What I want to do is I want to redo my website right now. Okay, so we can work on your website. I think no, no, no. This is what I want done. When you have that kind of thinking that you know exactly what to do and you know what you need done to your website, most likely you're making a huge mistake because A, why are you paying me money if you're not going to listen to what I have to say? So that's one problem with doing it. I mean, you're wasting your money this way. If you know what you want to do, just hire some web junkie, from some service and just have them do your website since you know exactly what you need done. Number two, people who are like that, they're usually saying what they want done because that's what they want. And as we all know, the best way to design a website is to design it for people who are going to consume it, not for people who are putting it together. Okay? So,
Yes, that's so true.
so this is an example where you need to have an open mind to listen to what people have to say. You still need to run the business. You still are a person in charge. You still need to make the final call. But that open mind that Nina is talking about, I was talking about, it's essential for the success of the entire endeavor.
It is. Oleg, thank you so much. We've
My
come to
pleasure.
the end of our time, and it's just wonderful. It just makes so much, everything that you say makes so much sense. I really want to thank you very, very much for joining us today. And it's really a pleasure. And
Thank you.
our next I can't talk. The next midweek zap is the end of December. So I want to wish everyone happy holidays, and especially for my American friends, happy Thanksgiving tomorrow. And next month, we will have um, Randy Milanovic, and he's going to be talking about the difference between a good website and a great website. So anyway, enjoy your holidays, and we'll see you at the end of the year. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Oleg.
Thank
Ciao.
you, Zara. Really appreciate it. My pleasure. Happy Thanksgiving to you and best wishes to your family. Thank you.
Thank you.